So what I've got here are a bunch of hematite tumble stones, and these are magnetic stones that you can get online. And they're supposedly made of hematite, which is a kind of iron oxide. But in reality, hematite, when it occurs naturally, is much less magnetic than this. So stones like this are made of synthetic hematite, which has a high content of magnetite in it. Magnetite is also an oxide of iron, but it's much more magnetic. And this is interesting because magnetite is naturally occurring in the Earth's crust, and under certain circumstances, we're not, to be honest, quite sure what circumstances, magnetite can become very strongly magnetic. And these pieces of very magnetic magnetite are what are known as lodestones. And lodestones are how we think magnetism was discovered in antiquity, and it's also how the first compasses were developed. So if I look at this stack of hematite stones and I separate one off the end, then you can see that if I move these closer together, eventually the hematite stone is attracted to the block. And this is because the north and south poles on the faces of these stones are attracted to each other. But if I keep these very far apart from each other and I move this around, you can see it's not really affecting that stone very much. So you can see, even over such a short distance, the magnetic field drops off and it's not really affecting this stone anymore. But one of the interesting things about these hematite stones that you can buy online is they've been polished until they have these really round faces. And this enables us to do something really cool, because if I separate one of these off, you want to find one that's got really nice round surfaces. That one's pretty good, okay? So this has a really nice round surface here that's been polished off. Now, if I get something with a really smooth, hard surface, like the top of a glass, and I place this rounded hematite, I balance it on top, then a very interesting thing happens, because now I just have a single point of contact between my hematite stone and the surface of this glass, and that's very, very low friction. So now you'll see that the orientation of this stone is influenced even when I hold my hematite block at a great distance. And that's because I've almost completely eliminated the friction between this stone and the top surface of this glass. So this behaviour was discovered, well, before records began, really. We don't know exactly how long ago, that these stones could, if they were balanced like this, orient themselves to external magnetic fields. Of course, at the time, no one knew that it was magnetic fields that were doing this. They just thought the stones were moving bizarrely. And as a result, stones like this, lodestones, were used in a kind of divination called geomancy, where people thought that the movement of these stones could tell them things about the future. But what was actually going on is these stones were aligning themselves to the Earth's magnetic field. And eventually we got people practicing geomancy and people who were interested in the stars coming together and realizing that these stones were aligning themselves towards the pole star. And we can demonstrate exactly this behavior right now. Over here I have a compass. This is an antique nautical compass that's given to me by my granddad. And we can see in here there is a needle, a magnetic needle, which aligns itself to magnetic north. At the moment, this needle is being attracted to the magnet up here, so I need to move all of my magnets very, very far away to prevent them from influencing this experiment. So I'm going to take my compass, which now is far away from any external magnets, and I'm going to put it on top of this glass. And just need to move those even further away. Okay, so now we can see that this needle has settled. It's not being influenced by the magnets, which are now all the way over there on my floor. And we can now align this compass so that the north on the compass rose is aligned to this needle here. And what I'm just going to do is I'm now going to mark this on the outside of the glass. Okay, so there's my north direction, and there's my south. Now you can see very clearly that this compass is influenced by the effect of one of these hematite crystals. So if I bring this close to the compass, I can make the needle follow this. And we can see as well that when I orient it this way, the north needle aligns to this face. If I flip it round, the south needle aligns to this face. So that means this side is the north side of my magnet, and this side is the south side, because in magnets, opposites attract. So I can label these up as well. So that's my south side, and this side is my north side. Okay. Now, if I were an ancient person, obviously I wouldn't have a compass, so instead I would align this point to pointing towards the pole star. So, again, let's get these magnets far away so they can't influence our experiment. And now let's balance this lodestone on top of the glass again and see what it does. So I'm going to place this down on its rounded edge, and I'm going to, it's a bit tricky to balance, I'm going to do it at a random angle, and let's see what happens. So here is our marker for north, and if we look on this side, it's a bit tricky to see, but you can see that the north side there is aligned to magnetic north, and that means that this south side is aligned to magnetic south. There we go, there's the south side. And just to prove this isn't a fluke, I'll put it at a different angle and do it again. It's a little tricky to balance. There we go. I can give it a poke and it will align itself. So this stone is aligning itself to the Earth's magnetic field. And this is how the first compasses were designed and how the Earth's magnetic field was discovered using naturally occurring lodestone.